Thanks. Sorry, I was a little bit late running from another meeting, so apologies for that.
No worries. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Sarah Piepenberg, and I'm the owner of Vinaigrette in Minneapolis and a member of Main Street Alliance. The purpose of this roundtable is for legislative leaders to hear from the small business owners about our priorities and needs for this session. We are joined by small business owners from Main Street Alliance, a network of small business owners committed to creating strong communities, which are the true engine of small business growth, including myself. Kids Count on Us, a coalition of over 500 community-based childcare providers from across the state of Minnesota, and the Barbershop and Black Church Cooperative that includes dozens of Black-owned barbershops and salons, mostly in Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and Minneapolis. The past couple of years have been very difficult for small businesses. And we have a number of small businesses that are a heart of our local economies, not industry giants like Amazon. We employ locally from the community. We contribute to growing and vibrant main streets. We care about our employees and our local communities. We are so grateful for Speaker Hortman and Minority Leader López, Franzen, for taking the time to hear from small business owners today. Too often, small businesses are looked over or used as political pawns to justify tax cuts for large corporations. Our needs are unique, and we are so grateful you are taking the time to hear from us. Now we will hear from 4 other small business owners about the particular challenges that they are facing and their priorities for legislative investments. Then we will hear from Minority Leader López, Franzen, and Speaker Hortman. Yes, I will start. As the owner of a retail store throughout the pandemic, I've been dealing with everything from supply chain issues to the lack of a safety net to support myself and my family when we contracted COVID. There's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety when I think about the future as a small business owner. We were recently awarded a small amount of COVID relief. While we are grateful for the relief we have gotten, we actually owe 3 times more in back rent. I know I'm not alone in feeling overwhelmed right now as a small business owner. Many small businesses have shuttered and many more are struggling. We need some stability right now and things like more structured COVID guidance and consistency for small businesses, targeted relief, and long-term investments in the care economy would help provide that stability and create a level playing field between small businesses and the largest corporations. Small businesses like mine are not able to compete with the industry giants like Amazon. At the height of the pandemic, Amazon's unchecked dominance had a devastating impact on my business, going far beyond what fair competition allows. Last April, our longstanding logistics partner told us they were dropping us from our distribution route. They signed a contract with Amazon worth more than $1 million. We searched far and wide for other distributors, but Amazon has struck similar deals with many of the less than truckload carriers and up and down the supply chain. We finally found a new carrier, but the cost to get our product here was astronomical, 4 times what we had been paying. This has resulted in my husband and I driving to Chicago to pick up our product, loading up our minivan, and it's not the only trip we have to make. Because distribution of our project wasn't the only thing that Amazon dealt us, we've also had to drive to Milwaukee to pick up our bottles. And to be quite honest, our minivan can't take that wear and tear nor the weight. These blows kept coming during a pandemic that forced many small businesses like mine to shutter, a pandemic during which Amazon made record profits and expanded its dominance. Legislation that promotes fair competition and ensures the largest corporations pay their fair share of taxes would go a long way in supporting small businesses like mine. It would level the playing field between us and the largest corporations. All in all, we need real investments that will help keep our doors open. And I know I have said this many times before, and paid leave is a huge passion of mine, and also one of the things that we really need as a small business. With that being said, I'm going to now introduce Rebecca Foley, another small business owner that can share her story. Rebecca.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone gathered here today for giving us time to discuss these issues. I am Rebecca Foley. I am the owner of Phoenix Grow Systems in Anoka, and I am also a member of Main Street Alliance. I started my bookkeeping business during the last recession, and throughout the years, I have found that conversations on small business support rarely take into account the smallest of businesses, micro businesses, and small and solo entrepreneurs, creating new and improving existing lines of accessing capital, as well as investing in the care economy, which includes paid family medical leave and childcare, are crucial support systems for small businesses like mine. As a micro business that has been systemically left out of traditional forms of access to business capital, I would benefit from real investments that would help ensure the success of my business. Recently, I applied for a small loan to grow my business. I had a perfect credit score, but still got turned down for the loan. I found out that this was due to the fact that I had made a few late payments back in 2019. The majority of small business owners I work with also come from communities that face racial and gender disparities when it comes to accessing credit. For many of them, their credit was a safety net in the past, which caused them to have poor credit scores. Many emerging entrepreneurs also have trouble accessing COVID relief because they are a new business. Providing additional access to capital and targeted relief would be more helpful for micro businesses and solo entrepreneurs, especially when they are usually left out of other forms of relief. Solo entrepreneurs and micro businesses like myself would also benefit from investments like paid family medical leave, especially during the pandemic. For a solo entrepreneur, being sick means closing your business for the time it takes you to recover without necessarily having coverage. Paid family medical leave would mean that we do not have to worry about our income when we have to take time off to recover or to provide care for our loved ones. Also, prioritizing public investment in childcare by increasing its accessibility and affordability would create more stability for small business owners and our employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Now, if we could hear from Nicole.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for listening to our stories. It truly makes all the difference in the world, and I've done this a couple times now. My name is Nicole Flick. I own ABC 123 Child Enrichment Center in Dilworth, Minnesota, right outside the Fargo-Moorhead metro area. And I am licensed for 175 children in my child care center. I employ 48 people. I'm a mom of two, ages 4 and 7, and I work with my husband and we run our small business together. My bachelor's degree is in education and I have an MBA from Franzen University. I'm here today to explain why the profit margins in childcare are so low and how this business model made the past 2 years so stressful for childcare providers. First, I'd like to talk about how the payroll expenses for childcare takes up 60 to 70% of our total budget, even more for infants and toddlers. In any other business model, payroll sits at 15% or lower. That leaves other businesses profits of 25 to 30% and after overhead costs and materials. Here's an example of the childcare industry breakdown. If we're sitting at 60% for payroll expenses with low wages, by the way, minimum wage, we put another 25% into rent, utilities, and administrative costs. Now we're sitting at 85%. Now we have to buy food, materials, and supplies to run our business for quality. And that's another 10%, leaves us at 5% profit. And that's if the parents pay us on time and if the counties we use for childcare assistance also pay us on time. There are no room for reserves, and all that extra money goes back into the business if we need extra supplies or extra food. So it's been quite the challenge. Sorry. Last year, my business brought in $1.1 million gross income. I walked away with 1% due to increased safety items and the things we needed to protect our staff from COVID and the rising cost of goods. This is why people do not own childcare centers, because there is no profit. Any other industry, I can make 20 to 25% of that money. And due to the rules and regulations, it cripples the industry and it doesn't make it worth it. When a restaurant owner raises their plate of food by 10%, we chalk it up to inflation and we eat out less. When me as a childcare provider raise my rates by 10%, I get backlash, parents get angry because they can't afford the 10%, because they can't just stop coming to daycare. People need daycare so they can work. I've been given grants this whole time to keep my center open, but that went to higher wages. The problem is I'm across the street from a Walmart and a Target, and their little sign says $16.75 an hour, and I'm over here trying to get a bachelor educated professional for $15 an hour. It doesn't work. I can't do it. So our quality decreases because I can't get the quality level of education I want. So we made it through year one, COVID. We stayed open like the governor wanted us to. We took care of all the essential workers' children, even though we weren't considered essential. And then we went through year two, we had to close down. We were closing every other week. Parents couldn't get to work. They had to pay us, even though they weren't working. People were angry, they're still angry. And now we're heading into year three. And now we're hitting inflation. And it's just, we can't meet the prices of what things are hitting now. Supply chain issues, like they said before, when you need formula to feed the children and you can't get it, I don't know what we're supposed to do. If parents can't get it, we can't get it, kids starve, I don't really know. So I have to buy more expensive formula. I have to go get it. I have to find it. I don't get reimbursed for the food program for higher costs. The milk went from $2 a gallon to $3 a gallon. That was a 50% increase. We go through 30 gallons of milk a week. I mean, I can't just not feed them. So childcare rates will continue to rise. Center and home providers will continue to close. And your workforce will shrink because they can't have childcare. And the cycle will continue until there are none of us left. Because quality, affordable childcare is needed. And the only way we can get it is if we're fully funded, like we're early education schools. We need to be treated like schools. And these other people here with me, they need workers, and we need supply chain issues. Those people need childcare, and they won't get it. It'll just keep getting worse until somebody finally helps us out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nicole. Now, if we could hear from Rico. Rico, you're on mute. Rico, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was talking. All right. So my name is Rico Allen. I'm a licensed barber. I've been a licensed barber for 4 years now. I recently opened up my barbershop in the second wave of the pandemic, which has been really tough. Far as like finding money for capital to stay open and to have that stability. And pretty much it's hard for like my employees with the COVID and daycare and like it's been hard with me. I'm a father of 5, so daycares have been shutting down, which causes me to stay home with the children and miss work. And in this business, there's no benefits such as paid leave, healthcare, or anything like that. So that's something that I'm very passionate to see change. Also, like far as the barbershops are important, they're a source of community where people can come get a haircut, can get therapy, talk to your barber. And it's been a good tool for me. It's helped providing me a nice living and take care of my family. But most importantly, it'd be more beneficial for us to have a state government that invests in helping barbershops thrive, and be able to give us paid leave benefits and COVID grants and stuff, as I was not able to get the grants from COVID or the loans or anything. And that's pretty much my case today. So yes, I don't have nothing else to say.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yep, thank you.
Now, if we could hear from KB of Wolfpack Promotions.
Promotionals. I am KB Brown, owner of Wolfpack Promotionals. We are a full service print shop, union owned, family run. I think pretty much everyone else has kind of hit a lot of the same issues that we have. Actually, payroll was yesterday, and we literally had to take our savings that we had, our personal savings, to make sure our payroll was made. But on the other side, we have staff members that we have allowed them to bring their children to work. We went from 6 staff to 4 now, 2 of them part-time, and we have 2 part-time students that work. I mean, we know what the issues are. I don't want to rehash all of the issues that and problems that we have. We just want to be treated fairly. We want actual help. We need actual help. I don't know exactly how to say it in a more meaningful manner than we're struggling. You know, we're struggling, and when we struggle, our employees struggle, our communities struggle. Everything, it's a chain reaction, you know. So we're just asking for some. We're grateful for your ear, but we're also asking for some help. Because one of the things that I actually said to Mel when she asked me to come to this roundtable is I did not want to have another meeting just to have a meeting. I'm literally running to pick up stuff for our business right now because shipping is a severe issue. So I'm literally driving to go pick up stuff now. We need help. Simple and plain. I'm, you know, just simple.
Thank you, KB. Thank you to all the business owners who shared their stories and priorities. Now we will hear from Minority Leader López Franzen about her priorities for small businesses this session.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to all of you who own a business, have attempted to start one up, and who are still in the game. I actually did that myself a few years back. When I first ran for office, I used to work in corporate America, where people come magically to pick up your trash and clean your cube and make the lights work and all of that. And then when you start your own business, you are doing all of that and then some. So that was my first child, if you will. I have now 2 little boys, 5 and 6. So Nicole, I hear you, and I'm very close to my childcare center, who to this day is like family, and I hear their struggles still today. But back to, in terms of small businesses, we all know we're not all created equally. We all have challenges, but at the end of the day, I also been that person taking from savings or not taking a paycheck to make sure that everybody else had theirs on time. Those are the sacrifices we make, and it's not glamorous, but it's certainly a pride that you have of building something. And not just yourself, with others, and your colleagues and your employees are pretty much your family. So I love to hear more. I love to hear more about the unemployment insurance relief package that you're hearing about, if that actually will help you. I am skeptical of that, because as small businesses, that's not a huge amount, price tag as a big corporation. And having worked for one, I understand that. I used to lobby for one. And knowing that the complexities of small businesses, I hear the paid family leave piece. I wish I can compete with my former employer Target when I was trying to attract talent to my small business, because I don't offer paid family leave, and it's a huge disadvantage. With COVID, we know we all had to make different sacrifices and business models fit to this new reality, but a lot of us either went under, or the relief either came too late, or it wasn't enough to keep us afloat. And there's a lot of businesses that have shut down, small businesses in particular, that have shut down. Sarah, you talk about Amazon, and it just really, it's unfortunate that we did something so quickly without understanding what the repercussions were for the entire business community. And in a sense, we picked winners and losers, right? When some larger corporations like a Target could be open, but your small business couldn't, even though they could sell a similar product. So your competition there and your margins are gone. So I understand it. I feel it. My small business is in public relations, so it was people, and we were able to work remotely. But as you know, that also has disadvantages of not having that collaboration. But Nicole, you couldn't have that option of working from home remotely. You showed up to allow people like me to be able to go and show up even at home where I am right now. And I have to go pick up one early to take him to the dentist. But if I had him here, I wouldn't be able to work. He's 5 years old and bounces off the walls, and Speaker Hortman knows all about that too. Sometimes he pops up. But I understand the complexities as a small business owner, as a person of color. I'm also Puerto Rican, so access to capital. The reason I had access to capital was because I worked with MEDA, the Metropolitan Economic Development Association, and they focus on communities of colors and help us leverage and be able to get loans for small businesses. So that's who I worked with, and I still have, a lot of our success through them. But I was also an essential, business, right? In terms of printing, we have a small newspaper and we do public relations. So we were able to stay open. We weren't required to shut down. So I was lucky, but at the same time, we also saw severe changes in our business as people pulled out ads and advertisements, and certainly understanding the KB, we use the local printer as well. And if we don't print anymore and something is not, it really affects the whole supply chain of small businesses that we rely on as well. So I think the main thing for me is to understand one of the pieces that you're hearing a lot in the news is the unemployment insurance refund, or that's to the tune of $2.7 billion that there's a big push from the Chamber of Commerce to support. I'm also a Minneapolis Regional Chamber member, so I want to be active, and I'm active in the community when it comes to small business community as well, and they help me launch as well. But we understand that we're not the same as those bigger shops, and you can do a lot of printing online now, and you don't have to go through the local shops, so that's a disadvantage there. But to the extent of healthcare, I also have a disadvantage, like all of you, because I compete with the bigger plans. And frankly, if my business model changes, I have 16 employees right now, but if I hire less, I don't qualify for the group rate. And it's just one thing after the other that you have to manage. Bookkeeping, Rebecca, we all need one of you. And I hire a local bookkeeper, and that's a small business too. Woman owned, and it's all symbiotic. We all rely on each other when it comes to small businesses, because sometimes we just gravitate to understanding the complexities of small business. So the offering from our vantage point, we've been our Senate DFL caucus has been focused on supporting paid family leave, on supporting expansion to healthcare. I would love to have. I just signed a bill right now to be part. To allow for the public option, and to be part of getting premium tax credits for small businesses as well, because we're competing against the bigger plans. And I represent a suburban district of Edina, so it actually has like United Healthcare is in my backyard. So I understand they provide jobs, but I understand that not all of us are able to afford the healthcare that is accessible to other Minnesotans. So again, the childcare piece, we were the first state that had the $30 million grants that went out. I worked on that personally. It was a lifeline. It wasn't enough. Then we had the federal grants coming in, and that's still not enough, because Minnesota is one of the most expensive states in the country for childcare. So even people who are, average income are spending a lot of their income on childcare, not to mention their homes and their food, etc. And if you have to choose between your food and your childcare, there's this untenable situations, and especially with inflation and the distribution things you've talked about, and those issues aren't gone. In fact, they're still lingering with a vengeance, if you will. So my commitment and our caucus is to work on helping Minnesotans to get back on not just small businesses, but that we can actually deal with the inflationary factor and get some tax relief and tax cuts to people who need it the most. And it's not Amazon, that is you. And I'm committed to that and understanding that that voice needs to be very loud on these negotiations. And I'm sure that Speaker Hortman will add as well and share some thoughts there. But healthcare, unemployment insurance, I'd love to hear more about that. And really paid family leave and supporting small businesses like you, Nicole, like you, Rico. And I mean, you were shut down for a while too, so you weren't able to even work for a long time with a lot of us had COVID here, including everyone in my family. But you're not just a business person, you're a father of a big family who needs you too. And we've been pushed away from our own businesses because of COVID. And now it's time to rebuild that and give you the support you need to get back on track and into that dream of growing your business and expanding it, I hope. So I'm all ears. I feel the pain. I've had some of it too, but I'm lucky to say that my business made it through. And a lot of it was the supports we got from the PPP loans, et cetera. And you know, a lot of that we're going to repay, right? We all have to repay that too, with strings attached. So I'll leave that up to open it to Speaker Hortman, but you have a willing and able and very understanding partner in the Minnesota Senate with me and my caucus. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your position. And yeah, if we could speak with Speaker Hortman. What are some of your priorities?
Thanks so much for having me. Sorry, it took a little to get the unmute button there. Really value hearing from folks today. And I can share my experience too. The hardest thing I ever did was run my own small business. I ran my own small law firm, 97 to about 2001, 2000. And excruciating being the person who's the copier repair person, and all those things at the accountant and all those things at the same time. And it was honestly, frankly, it was too hard to run my business. So I ended up going to a large law firm and then here. So I'm grateful to you for sharing your stories, and I'm really empathetic with the perspective. I think it was KB who said, I don't want to come to another meeting to go to another meeting. And I want you to know why it is we want to hear your personal stories. We are trying to pass legislation here in the Minnesota legislature, and trying to pass legislation is a little like pushing a boulder up a hill. We unfortunately sometimes have a hard time convincing some of our colleagues of some of the ways that we want to spend money that we think will help Minnesotans. And hearing your stories gives us the tools we need and also the fuel in the tank to keep pushing that boulder. We have to explain to some of our Republican colleagues why just giving $2.7 billion to businesses, whether they need it or not, and disproportionately benefiting businesses that are doing quite well is not really the way to move forward. We need to bring your stories from what you've been dealing with through the pandemic. I mean, Nicole, talking about milk going from $2 a gallon to $3 a gallon, like that's something I can talk to a Republican about why it's, making sure that we distribute aid to businesses in a way where it treats you differently than Target Corporation or Amazon Corporation is really important right now. So what is it that we're working on here? There's a few things that we're working on that we think will make a difference to all of you. Number one, we want to put money back in people's pockets. The state has a projected approximately $9 billion surplus. So on the surface, that you could look at that and say, oh, it looks like the state is doing great. But underneath the surface, we know lots of people are struggling. And so it doesn't make any sense to set this $9 billion aside and not use it to help make people's lives easier. So what are the ways we can get that in your pockets? And we'll be looking at a variety of different tax rebates so that it goes to the people who need it instead of just rich people and corporations that don't need the tax cuts. The other thing that we'll be looking at is paid family medical leave. And a lot of people have talked about this. Much of my life, I also worked at our family business, John's Auto Parts up in Blaine. And we couldn't afford to offer paid family medical leave, just in the same way we couldn't as a business afford to provide unemployment compensation to people who got laid off, when the economy was in the tank. We have a statewide system of unemployment insurance because that big system allows us to make sure that unemployment is there when people need it. We can do the exact same thing for paid family medical leave. Rico should be able to take a day off to take care of his kids when they're sick and get paid for that. And there should be a safety net there, just like there is with unemployment. You shouldn't have to lose your job to have access to a social safety net, especially when we have a $9 billion surplus. This is truly historic amount of money. And finally, many of you have raised the issue of childcare. With $9 billion, we can increase the rates that we're paying folks to take care of our kids. We can also increase the number of slots of state subsidized childcare. So it's easier for people to access childcare benefits. And then for those who are in the industry who are doing this incredibly important work, that they're getting paid a little bit closer to what they're worth. So we'll be fighting hard to see childcare reimbursement rates go up and the total amount of money dedicated to the childcare system to increase as well. So with that, I'm also interested in hearing the answers to the question that Senator López Franzen raised about, the unemployment insurance system, and if you're looking ahead to those increases that are going to kick in, what the sort of level of impact on your business is, to the extent you know that.
So I want to take a stab at that one. Start.
If I may, I run payroll for businesses. So, I mean, so it's not just for me, it's also for my clients. We're getting away from payroll, but we still see it. I have 2 part-time employees. My UI that I pay in is about $80 a quarter. So any type of relief that would focus on UI would not be beneficial to us, would not help my employees, it wouldn't help me. The most that I've probably seen from some of my clients in the past, when I've really done payroll, I had one client that had about 20 employees, and I think he was paying something like close to like $300 a quarter. So it's very, very minimal.
As someone who has about a $750,000 payroll annually, I think I maybe pay $1,000. And that's really a drop in the bucket. So it doesn't really matter to me. I also have a co-employer. I contract a payroll company. So we share that burden a little bit. So it's a fee that I pay and I don't really see it. So I don't care. It's more about the medical insurance and the family leave for everyone.
Go ahead.
I would say, I mean, I would agree with all. Yes, it's not enough. It's not enough.
It sounds like it is tiny in proportion to the different ways that we could provide help to you. And when we look at that, it gives millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars to corporations who had their best 2 years during COVID.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like the wisest way to try to help businesses in Minnesota.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Now, if you wanted to cut the small business payroll tax, the taxes we pay on top of the taxes that they pay, that would be a start. That's a significant amount of money.
So when Senator López Franzen and our team talk about, temporary tax cuts during this time of surplus, what we're looking at is a way to distribute benefits to folks who actually need it, rather than kind of like across the board. So basing things on the amount of money that people are making, and not just blanket cuts for people, especially for people at the very, very top of the income scale. So go ahead, Senator.
I was going to ask too about the workforce shortage and what you're seeing in your particular industry. What would be beneficial? I mean, it's so different in a childcare setting of what you're seeing in shortages, and I feel like I have a little understanding there. But are we seeing that across the board? And I mean, you mentioned Walmart across the street from you, Nicole, but Sarah and Rebecca and others, KB, are you seeing really challenging? And knowing that we're small businesses, we don't hire that many people either, but are you seeing it more difficult, and what can we do to help support your industry and small businesses when it comes to workforce?
So one of the things, I'm in North Minneapolis. So one of the things that we did was we were trying to figure out ways to start teaching entrepreneur classes to the kids, because most of them love graphics anyway, and it's easy for me to teach them graphic design. What we've done is we partner with a couple of the coaches, and we hire kids throughout the summer with the expectation that they have to stay out of trouble during the school year. Fortunately, those kids also work. Okay, buddy. Those kids also work. Sorry, I got puppy duty too. Those kids also work after school. So we've kind of, I don't want to say solved part of our little issue, but I mean, hiring outside of that, there's no other way we can do it.
If I can answer, I'm not in a position to hire. I'm not making enough money. I'm not selling enough product. So I'm not in a position to hire. We've had to let people go. So as far as workforce, I don't think that I can contribute in that regard. I would like in as far as that piece, but I'm not going to be hiring for a while.
Can I ask, Sarah, you in particular, in at the retail level, did you receive any of the benefits that we passed in December 2020 when there was kind of an automatic distribution based on comparing 2019 revenue and 2020 revenue? And I know we provided some relief to folks in the hospitality industry, but some of the other categories, but was that assistance, did that reach you at all or no?
Right. So first, I was denied the first round of PPP, ultimately decided not to go that route. Did apply for the COVID relief grant, was denied, but then just like 3 weeks ago, said yes. So I did receive $10,000. Which will go very far in paying $36,000 in back rent that we weren't able to pay during COVID.
And that COVID relief that you got, was that through a state application process through DEED, or was that from a federal program?
From DEED.
So if we could provide more assistance in those programs, that sounds like something that would be helpful. And you might have some feedback, like, did the application process take a long time? Was it hard to access? Any tips you have? I love that we're all on puppy duty with KB because that is one cute dog. But Sarah, if you had any feedback on your experience from your application process that would help us design the program better if we need to make changes.
It was actually very easy to fill out the form.
I'm sorry, I didn't know I was on.
I got notification. KB, go on mute.
Sorry.
So filled out the application, did hear back pretty quickly that we didn't get it, but literally just got an email a couple of weeks at the end of January that we did receive it, and filled out the paperwork, which was really quick and easy. I haven't received the money yet. They said it'll take about 3 weeks. But yes, I thought it was very easy as far as filling out the application and the whole process. It was extremely easy.
And was the key metric they were looking at comparing like your 2019 revenue to your 2020 revenue? So trying to think about, pandemic versus during the pandemic?
Correct. Correct.
Because it strikes me that what we need is speed. You know, I can hear in your voice, Sarah, how hard things are right now, and we want to provide assistance quickly. And as you maybe have detected, and you all are experienced because you follow politics, we move at a glacial pace, right? And so if we don't reach a deal on some new thing until May, and I want to get that money in your pocket by June or July, you know, maybe it is adding additional resources to some of those programs that are already up and operating. Like Deed has figured out how to get this application form out to people. And so maybe what we need to be looking at is refilling those buckets as they're getting depleted and making sure that they're targeted to the people who need the help the most.
Correct. And I will have to say too, part of what I think that we also need to take a look at is, despite the fact that my sales were down during COVID, I don't know that we're through COVID, but my sales are down this year. So my sales are down 14% so far from being down from COVID. And as a retailer, I'm not sure how that's going to come back, just because of the convenience of Amazon and curbside pickup from Target and those kinds of things. So I think that that's one of the things that we kind of also need to continue to look at, is how our businesses are faring. Just because COVID seems to be over and things are opening up, it does not mean that sales are coming back in any kind of capacity.
So what that means to me is we need to continue to look at like 2019. We need to continue to look back further in time, and things are not getting better. I hear you loud and clear. Fingers crossed. I mean, the data was very promising this morning. Senator López, Franzen, and I are sometimes on the governor's COVID briefings, and the news that we heard this morning is, you know, really things look very good. So hopefully we're on our way to a little boomlet that helps all of you. But I hear the strain in your voice that we just don't know.
And I have to step out to another appointment, but I put my cell phone on the chat and my email. And I'd love to connect with all of you individually or through the Main Street Alliance, but I really appreciate hearing your voices. And it's really what we expected, quite frankly, to hear, and know that we need to do more. And I would say, yes, I was also denied my first round of PPP loans, and I had to go through MEDA to help us with the local community bank to actually get approved. So basically I needed someone to vouch for our business to get a loan to help us through this. So a lot of complications and a lot of hoops that we have to go. And it's not that we can send an employee to do that, Sarah. It's ourselves that takes time away from our own business to manage. So thank you for helping building Main Street. And we hope that you will be able to be part of this vibrant Main Street. And we want to make sure that we don't lose your voice in the decisions we have to make with this big surplus. So I appreciate your time and definitely want to continue this conversation, even though I have to step out right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. Are there any other business owners that have any questions?
I do. I was listening to the conversation concerning like Deed and a few of the other programs, and I'm speaking strictly from a minority standpoint. I know that we didn't get any PPP funding. Matter of fact, we got no funding from state at all. Most of the stuff we didn't qualify for, or you know, the way that the language is typically written in the way that they do things, it kind of inherently cuts out certain industries and communities. So when I hear you say adding more money to Deed, what I hear is my community still has to struggle because we don't get those things. We don't get access to those things. I'm literally arguing with the SBA right now because they said I'm not a legitimate business. And I mean, I don't. They take my tax money, but I'm not a legitimate business. So I would like to know how deed is being addressed when it comes to minority communities?
Yeah, excellent question. So the chair of our committee that disperses money to deed is Mahmoud Noor from Minneapolis. And that was a central concern of his, is that making sure that the money that we're putting into these systems reaches all the people that it should reach. My understanding is that there is another tranche of business assistance that's going out right now where the application period closes on Monday, February 28th. So I can make sure that in the follow-up to this call, I'm assuming that Melissa, who set up the call, has contact information for everybody on the call, that we can make sure to get the information about how to apply for the assistance with Indeed, because we tried to structure it, you know, in the Minnesota House. This was a big part of our fight, so that the money would get to all the people who need it. And, you know, Mahmoud Noor is much more well-versed in how he put the programs together and how he cut the deal to make sure that that would happen. But we tried to make sure it was balanced, like geographically and all that. So let me get the information to you, because I think there's still an opportunity to apply for funds through February 28th.
I would definitely like to do that. Thank you.
Yeah. Good question.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Mel, Minnesota organizer for Main Street Alliance. I don't have a question, but I was planning to add on to what KB and Sarah was saying about Deed, just based on feedback from other small businesses that I've heard as well, if I may. And so part of the feedback that I've heard is that a lot of folks don't know about Deed programs, and there isn't a lot of outreach done, especially in specific communities that, like, for example, that KB mentioned. And the other feedback too is that a lot of the investments are sort of focused on a very narrow, like, specific intent. And so a lot of folks end up not being able to qualify for it. And also the employee support programs aren't ones that most small businesses can connect with in a lot of ways. And many sole proprietors are still struggling, and, you know, again, are left out from a lot of aid because they don't have employees, or, you know, some form of mechanism that disqualifies them from applying. And then the last feedback I've heard is the lottery system wasn't super useful. I think that was a few of their programs in the last year. And then having a lot of just barriers to participation, needing to know about the grant, and just needing more word out and outreach on the small business support programs available. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly a huge concern that we had. So I will speak with Representative Noor on that. And again, I think there's two things that I'm thinking of this session, and I haven't talked to Representative Noor yet about his package. But one is the money for outreach, to make sure that being for us at the legislature to be very prescriptive about how Deed does the outreach, to make sure they are reaching the people that we want them to reach. But the second thing is to use a wider distribution system. So not just going through the state agency, right? Like, for some people, accessing funding through the city of Minneapolis, the city of St. Paul, Ramsey County, Hennepin County, it may be faster and more direct than trying to get through a state agency. Because I think of it like, you know, when a snake swallows an opossum or something, it takes a while to get through the system. Well, we can put tons and tons of money in Deed, but then that just slows down it getting out into the people who need it. So I think, you know, our caucus, whether it's in this area or some of the community groups that are doing work in public safety, instead of going through the Department of Public Safety, or in this case, Deed, thinking about how do we use our local governments to help get money out to folks faster. Because for once in a lifetime miracle, it's not the money that's the problem. It's getting the money out at the speed that it makes a difference in people's lives as soon as possible. So really helpful to have that input.
Thank you. I've also heard that, you know, a lot of the applications are challenging to navigate without the help of a professional. And ideally, folks wouldn't need like a signing up mechanism to receive support. So being able to get like automatic support for linguistic, literacy, technological barriers are also some of the things that I've heard. But thank you, speaker. That was helpful.
I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add?
I just want to say thank you for coming and listening to us and participating in
Okay, B, you're muted.
Dang it. I said I just wanted to tell her thank you for never mind. Thank you for showing up and listening.
Thanks to all of you for being here and taking the time. Clearly you got a lot to do in your small businesses and you took the time to share with us, and maybe someday KB's dog and my dog can meet each other because I think they have the same personality.
Anytime you want them right now, I'll bring them up. I'll bring them to the Capitol.
I want to thank everyone, including each of the small business owners, Speaker Hortman and Minority Leader López Franzen. And we are always available to you, and you have our support. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day.
You too.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.